She slept in the wrong private jet seat, and the billionaire panicked when the twins called him Dad. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. The bitter wind from Lake Michigan seemed to cut straight to Maya Johnson's bones as she pushed through the glass doors of Crawford Tower. At 19, her dark skin contrasted sharply with the simple uniform of the Riverfront Cafe, an upscale establishment frequented by Chicago's business elite. She clutched the worn strap of her purse, her fingertips almost numb, not entirely from the cold. 3 positive pregnancy tests had brought her here today. The gleaming marble lobby stretched before her, a testament to 4 generations of Crawford wealth. Maya had never felt more out of place, more painfully visible. The receptionist, a blonde woman with immaculate makeup, looked up with barely concealed disdain. "Can I help you?" The question sounded more like a challenge than an offer of assistance. "I'm here to see Liam Crawford. My name is Maya Johnson." The receptionist's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched slightly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but he'll want to see me." Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. "Please tell him it's Maya from Riverfront." With obvious reluctance, the receptionist picked up her phone, speaking in hushed tones. After a moment, she placed the receiver down, her expression a mixture of surprise and renewed assessment. "Miss Johnson, Mr. Crawford will see you now. 28th floor, the elevator to your right." Maya nodded, forcing herself to walk confidently across the polished floor. 2 months ago, Liam Crawford had started frequenting the Riverfront Cafe during lunch. At 22, the heir to the Crawford real estate empire cut an impressive figure with his tailored suits and easy charm. What began with lingering glances and generous tips evolved into secret meetings at his penthouse apartment. Between silk sheets, he had whispered promises that now felt like ash in her mouth. The elevator ascended silently, numbers flashing overhead. Maya caught her reflection in the mirrored wall, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a simple bun, her uniform visible beneath her second-hand coat. She straightened her shoulders. 3 months pregnant, with twins, according to yesterday's ultrasound at the community clinic. "Miss Johnson, Mr. Crawford will see you now." The executive assistant gestured toward massive double doors. Liam's office occupied half the executive floor, a testament to his position in the family dynasty. Maya stepped inside, her heart hammering against her ribs. Liam stood with his back to her, looking out through floor-to-ceiling windows at the city his family had helped build. Chicago stretched before him like a personal fiefdom. "Are you sure?" These were his first words, spoken without turning around. Maya's throat tightened. 3 tests, Liam. I'm 3 months pregnant." When he finally turned to face her, Maya didn't recognize the man before her. The warm, attentive expression she had come to know had been replaced by a cold, calculating mask. This wasn't the Liam who had traced patterns on her skin in the darkness. This was Crawford heir apparent, assessing a problem. "I understand this is inconvenient, Maya, but let's be practical." Liam slid behind his mahogany desk, putting physical distance between them. "You're a waitress from the South Side, a community college student. My name is on buildings across this city. The Crawford dynasty has 4 generations of legacy. This," he gestured toward her midsection, "situation is incompatible with my future." Maya felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. "Incompatible? You said you loved me. I said many things." Liam opened a drawer, removing a checkbook. "My family expects me to marry someone of Crawford caliber, someone cultured, sophisticated from our circle. You are—" He paused, cruelly selecting his words. "Insufficient. To be frank, too common for what I need in a wife. You lack the proper education, the necessary connections, or the presence the position requires." With trembling hands, he filled out a check and slid it across the desk. "This will cover all your needs. The family lawyer will prepare a confidentiality agreement." "I don't want your money," Maya stammered, tears streaming down her face. "I thought we had something real." What we had was a temporary distraction. Liam pressed a button under his desk. I suggest you be practical, Maya. A girl from the South Side with your family background? A baby will only make your life harder. 2 security guards entered the office. Please escort Miss Johnson out, Liam ordered, turning his attention to his laptop as if she were already gone. You can't just erase us, Liam, Maya cried as she was led toward the door. Actually, I can, he replied without looking up. And I recommend you take the check. Consider it an investment in your silence. Outside on the sidewalk, merciless rain soaked Maya within seconds. The check in her hand, $50,000, seemed to weigh a ton. Her first instinct was to tear it to shreds, but something stopped her. Not greed, but survival. The following week, the humiliation continued. The manager of Riverfront Cafe called her into his office, his expression uncomfortable but determined. I'm sorry, Maya, but we have a certain image to maintain. Clients like the Crawfords are our priority and… His gaze deliberately settled on her still imperceptible belly. Your current condition doesn't align with the environment we promote. That night, in her tiny South Side apartment, surrounded by textbooks and overdue bills, Maya cried until no tears remained. Sitting at her kitchen table, she contemplated the check, her final paycheck, and a warning letter from the college about overdue tuition. Liam was right about one thing. Having been raised by a single mother herself, she knew the hardships she would face. The ultrasound at the community clinic had brought the surprise. Twins. 2 lives depending on her now. You can do this, Maya, she whispered to herself. If your mom managed with you, you can manage with 2. In the months that followed, Maya fought harder than ever before. She used part of Liam's money to pay rent in advance and complete her semester at college. She secured 2 jobs, receptionist by day, data entry clerk by night. At each interview, she wore loose clothing, hiding her pregnancy until it became unavoidable. In her 7th month, a college professor noticed her potential and recommended her for a special scholarship program at Stanford. They're looking for unconventional talent, people who have overcome adversities, he explained. On Christmas Eve, alone in her apartment as snow fell outside, Maya placed her hand on her prominent belly and made a promise. You will never know what it's like to be abandoned. And one day, I'll show the man who rejected us exactly what he missed. We'll build something bigger than the Crawford name, something even he can't ignore. And when that day comes, he'll understand that I was never insufficient. He was unworthy of us. She glanced at the small Christmas tree in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments, a stark contrast to the lavish celebrations happening across town in Gold Coast mansions. Her hand moved in gentle circles over her belly as she felt a kick. Your mother didn't have connections or wealth, she continued softly. But I have something more valuable, determination. And for you, my babies, I'll turn that into an empire. Maya carefully folded the acceptance letter from Stanford, a new beginning waiting after the twins' birth. She had already arranged for affordable housing on campus that accommodated single parents, researched daycare options, and calculated a budget down to the last penny. As midnight approached, she stood by her window, watching snowflakes dance in the streetlight. 3 months ago, she had been just another invisible service worker, disposable to people like Liam Crawford. But tonight, something had fundamentally shifted inside her. The pain remained, raw and throbbing, but alongside it grew something unexpected, a fierce, unstoppable resolve. Liam's rejection had meant to diminish her, to reduce her to a problem easily solved with a check. Instead, it had awakened something formidable. One day, she whispered, the name Maya Johnson will open more doors than Crawford ever could. As she prepared for bed, placing protective hands over her unborn children, Maya couldn't have imagined that in 15 years she would be commanding a $1 billion technology empire, and that the very man who had discarded her would be begging for a place in their lives. Maya's hand rested protectively over her growing belly as she stared at the frozen window of her South Side apartment. January in Chicago showed no mercy. The radiator clanked ineffectively, her breath visible in the cold air. Outside, snowdrifts piled against parked cars, trapping them in icy cocoons. She held Liam's check between two fingers, still uncashed after 2 weeks. Pride warred with practicality as she calculated her dwindling savings against mounting expenses. Her small kitchen table had become command central, a battle map of bills marked in different colors, red for immediate, yellow for approaching danger, green for the few she'd managed to cover. "This isn't just about me anymore," she whispered, placing the check in a manila folder. Tomorrow, she would deposit it. Not surrender, but strategy. The next morning, the teller's eyes widened at the amount. "Would you like to speak with our financial advisor about investment options, Miss Johnson?" Maya smiled thinly. "Just the basics for now. I need to secure housing and tuition first." She allocated the money with surgical precision. 6 months' rent paid in advance, spring semester tuition, a small emergency fund, and the remainder invested in a certificate of deposit. Liam's dismissal money would become her children's future. Poetic justice that made her smile despite everything. By February, Maya's pregnancy became impossible to conceal. Her first job interview that month started promisingly at a downtown office. The HR director scanned her resume with approval. "Your academic record is impressive, especially while working full-time." "Thank you. I've always been committed to—" The woman's eyes dropped to Maya's midsection, her expression shifting subtly. "The position requires considerable overtime and travel. I notice you don't mention family commitments." Maya placed protective hands over her belly. "My personal arrangements won't interfere with my professional responsibilities." "I see." The familiar coolness crept into the interviewer's voice. "We'll keep your resume on file. Perhaps something more suitable might become available." The pattern repeated 5 more times that month. By March, Maya adjusted her strategy, applying for roles where her pregnancy wouldn't be immediately visible during phone interviews. She secured a morning receptionist position at a dental office, her voice being her only necessary asset. "We need coverage from 7:30 to 2, the office manager explained. "Can you start Monday?" "Absolutely," Maya confirmed, not mentioning her second interview that afternoon for an evening data entry position. By April, her life had become a precisely calibrated machine. Up at 5, at the dental office by 7:15, classes from 2:30 to 5, data entry from 6 to midnight, studying until 2 a.m., then blessed sleep for 3 hours before beginning again. The twins grew steadily, their movements a constant reminder of why she pushed herself beyond normal human limits. Her apartment transformed as well. One corner housed a makeshift nursery, a second-hand crib she'd found on sale, carefully sanitized and repainted. The other corner became her study station, textbooks stacked in neat towers, color-coded notes tacked to the wall. On a particularly exhausting night in early May, Maya's hands cramped around her keyboard at the data entry job. Numbers blurred before her eyes as she neared the end of her shift. A full-term pregnant woman shouldn't be working 16-hour days, but necessity recognized no limitations. "Johnson, you still here?" Her supervisor rounded the corner, frowning. "It's almost midnight." "Just finishing the Westbrook account," she replied, straightening painfully. He shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I need to talk to you about your situation." Maya's heart sank. "Is there a problem with my work?" "Your work is fine. Exceptional, actually. But management is concerned about—" He gestured vaguely at her belly. "Liability issues. They're worried you might go into labor here." "I'm not due for another 5 weeks. Still, we need someone with total availability. I can give you 2 weeks severance." Maya nodded mechanically, too tired to fight. That night she didn't cry. She'd moved beyond tears to a place of cold calculation. Sitting at her kitchen table, she added the severance to her dwindling resources spreadsheet and adjusted her budget yet again. The following week brought an unexpected turning point. In Professor Washington's business strategy class, Maya presented her analysis of resource optimization in developing markets. Afterward, he asked her to stay behind. "Johnson, your work on resource optimization is exceptional," he said, studying her with keen eyes. "You have a perspective that most of my students lack, an understanding of how to create value from limited resources." Maya shifted uncomfortably. "When you grow up with little, you learn to maximize everything." "Precisely." He nodded. "I'm on the selection committee for the Pathways to Innovation Scholarship at Stanford. It's designed for unconventional candidates who've overcome significant obstacles. Would you be interested?" For the first time in months, hope flickered in Maya's chest. Stanford? In California? Full tuition, housing stipend, and mentorship. They're looking for talent that might be overlooked by traditional programs. He paused. "I know about your pregnancy. The program has accommodations for students with children." That night, Maya researched Stanford obsessively. The Pathways program specifically sought students who demonstrated extraordinary potential despite challenging circumstances. The housing stipend included family-friendly apartments on campus. Most importantly, Stanford's child care center accepted infants as young as 3 months. Between dental appointments the next morning, she began her application, pouring every spare minute into crafting her personal statement. At night, while reading about global water crises for an environmental economics assignment, a pattern emerged in her mind: the intersection between resource scarcity, environmental challenges, and business opportunity. She started sketching concepts in a cheap notebook: water filtration systems using sustainable materials, designs that could be implemented in resource-poor settings. These late-night sketches became her escape, the place where her mind could temporarily leave behind her physical discomfort and financial stress. In early June, at 38 weeks pregnant, Maya waddled into her final exams, ignoring the stares of classmates. Her professors had been notified of her condition, but she refused special accommodations. After her last test, Professor Washington handed her an envelope. "Your interview with the Stanford committee is scheduled for next month. They're impressed with your application." Maya clutched the envelope, momentarily speechless. "Thank you. I won't disappoint you." "I know you won't. You're exactly what they're looking for. Someone who can turn obstacles into stepping stones." 2 days later, while studying at the public library during an unusually severe June snowstorm, Maya felt the first contraction. She gripped the edge of the table, breathing through the pain. When it passed, she carefully packed her books and approached the librarian. "Could you call me a taxi? I think I'm in labor." The first taxi driver took one look at her and shook his head. "Not risking you having those babies in my cab, lady." The second driver, an older woman with kind eyes, helped Maya inside. "Hospital?" "County Medical Center," Maya directed, clutching her backpack with the baby essentials she'd carried everywhere these past weeks. The labor progressed quickly. By the time they reached the hospital, contractions were 3 minutes apart. The intake nurse looked at her with concern. "Is someone meeting you here? The father? Family?" Maya shook her head. "It's just me." Hours later, alone in the delivery room, Maya gripped the bed rails as she pushed through excruciating pain without an epidural. The anesthesiologist had been delayed with an emergency case. "Almost there," the doctor encouraged. "I can see the first baby's head." With a final, powerful push, her son entered the world at 9:42 p.m., his outraged cry filling the delivery room. 11 minutes later, his sister followed. "You have a beautiful boy and girl," the nurse announced, placing the tiny bundles in Maya's arms. Maya gazed at her twins through tears of exhaustion and wonder. The boy had opened his eyes, startlingly blue, just like Liam's. The girl's delicate features showed traces of both parents in perfect harmony. "Elijah," she whispered to her son, "and Emma." Names she'd chosen months ago, strong names with meaning. Elijah for the prophet who survived against all odds, Emma for universal wholeness. Holding them against her chest, Maya made a silent vow more powerful than any she'd made before. "You'll never want for anything I can give you. The world that rejected us will one day recognize your brilliance." In that simple hospital room, cradling 2 premature babies in her arms, Maya didn't know she was holding the future heirs to an empire that would make the Crawford fortune seem modest in comparison. The Stanford campus sprawled before Maya, bathed in golden California sunshine that felt worlds away from Chicago's bitter winds. She stood at the entrance with Elijah and Emma secured in a double stroller, 3 worn suitcases at her feet, and a campus map clutched in her trembling hand. The twins, now 6 months old, slept peacefully, unaware of the magnitude of this moment. "Welcome to Stanford, Ms. Johnson," greeted the housing coordinator, eyeing the babies with poorly concealed surprise. "Your family accommodations are in Building D. It's unusual to have students with such young children." Maya straightened her shoulders. "We're an unusual family." The graduate family housing unit was modest but clean, a small bedroom, kitchenette, and living area that would serve as both nursery and study space. Maya methodically unpacked, arranging the twins' portable cribs in one corner and her textbooks in another. By sunset, she had transformed the sterile space into a functioning home classroom hybrid. On her first day of classes, Maya arrived 30 minutes early, the twins bundled in their stroller with bottles, diapers, and toys meticulously packed. She chose a seat near the door for quick exits if needed. As other graduate students filtered in, their stares shifted between curiosity and judgment. "Are those your babies?" asked a blonde woman in designer glasses. "Yes," Maya answered simply, arranging her notebooks. The professor entered, his steps faltering momentarily at the sight of the infants. "Ms. Johnson, I presume. We weren't expecting additional students." "They're excellent listeners, Professor Chen," Maya replied with practiced calm. "And I've brought everything they need to stay quiet. If they become disruptive, I'll step out immediately." The twins, as if understanding the gravity of the situation, remained miraculously quiet throughout the lecture. Maya took rapid notes while occasionally rocking the stroller with her foot, her concentration unbroken. This delicate balance became her daily reality. Mornings were for core engineering classes, afternoons for library research with the twins napping in their stroller, evenings for administrative coursework, and nights for laboriously catching up on readings while the babies slept. By the end of the first month, dark circles permanently resided under Maya's eyes. She had mastered the art of feeding Emma while highlighting textbook passages and could change Elijah's diaper while mentally solving differential equations. "Johnson, a word after class," Professor Whitman called out one day after his environmental engineering lecture. Maya's stomach tightened as she approached his desk, the twins fussing in their stroller. "Your circumstances," he began, glancing at the babies, "are clearly challenging. Perhaps you should consider a less demanding educational path." "My circumstances don't define my intellectual capabilities, Professor," Maya responded, maintaining eye contact. "My paper on water purification filtration was submitted on time and properly formatted." "Yes, well?" He shifted uncomfortably. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss. Your analysis of filtration systems using renewable materials was unexpectedly insightful. Where did you develop this perspective?" "When resources are limited, innovation becomes necessity," she answered. "I'd be happy to elaborate on my methodology if you're interested." The conversation marked a turning point. Within days, her paper circulated among faculty members. By mid-semester, professors who had initially viewed her with skepticism began treating her ideas with genuine interest. Yet the daily logistics remained brutally difficult. Maya established a military-precise routine, awakening at 5 o'clock, preparing bottles and baby meals, attending morning classes, utilizing every spare minute for study, working nighttime hours cleaning laboratories for essential income, then studying until 2 in the morning before collapsing for precious few hours of sleep. In her second semester, Maya established makeshift playpens in empty classrooms and laboratory corners. The twins became fixtures in the engineering building, their presence gradually normalized. Emma would contentedly stack blocks while Maya conducted experiments. Elijah would bat at hanging toys while she reviewed research papers. "How exactly do you manage?" asked Jessica, a fellow engineering student who had become cautiously friendly, watching Maya simultaneously bottle feed Elijah while reviewing chemical equations. "I don't have the luxury of not managing," Maya answered simply. One evening, Maya was presenting her latest filtration prototype design to her environmental solutions class. The twins, now 10 months old, sat in their stroller coloring with chunky crayons. When another student made a dismissive comment about the feasibility of her design in real-world applications, she was mid-rebuttal when Elijah began fussing loudly. "Perhaps this demonstrates my point," the student smirked. "Some distractions are simply incompatible with serious academic work." Before Maya could respond, Professor Harrington intervened. "Actually, Mr. Parker, I believe Ms. Johnson's ability to develop innovative designs while simultaneously raising 2 children speaks to exactly the kind of adaptability and multitasking capabilities the environmental engineering field desperately needs." The classroom fell silent. It was the first time a faculty member had explicitly defended her dual role. "Thank you, Professor," Maya said quietly later. "That meant a great deal." "Your work deserves to be judged on its merits," Harrington replied. "And frankly, your prototype design is the most promising approach I've seen in years. The fact that you developed it between diaper changes makes it even more remarkable." By the end of the first year, Maya's academic reputation had begun to overshadow her unusual family situation. Her innovative approach to water filtration using sustainable materials attracted attention from beyond her department. The twins, now walking and babbling, had become unofficial mascots of the engineering building. "Mama makes clean water," Emma would proudly tell visitors, repeating the simple explanation Maya had given them. As the twins grew, they absorbed their surroundings like sponges. Elijah could identify basic laboratory equipment before he could form complete sentences. Emma would mimic Maya's presentation stance, waving her tiny hands at imaginary diagrams. In her second year, Maya was preparing for her most important presentation yet, introducing her enhanced filtration prototype to the department's research committee. She had rehearsed for weeks, using the twins as her practice audience. "And this component accelerates filtration while requiring minimal energy input," she explained to Elijah and Emma, who sat attentively on their playmat, occasionally clapping. "Mama's water machine," Elijah said, pointing at her diagram. The day of the presentation arrived. Maya had arranged for a student to watch the twins in an adjacent room, but her childcare fell through at the last minute. Faced with no alternatives, she brought them into the presentation room, setting up their play area in the corner with quiet toys and books. "I apologize for the unorthodox arrangement," she told the committee of 5 senior professors. "My childcare plans collapsed unexpectedly." Professor Chen frowned. "Perhaps we should reschedule." "If I may," Maya said firmly, "I've prepared extensively for this presentation. My children understand the importance of being quiet during Mommy's work. If they become disruptive, I'll pause immediately." With a reluctant nod from the committee chair, Maya began. Her presentation flowed flawlessly, detailing how her prototype could purify contaminated water using locally sourced, sustainable materials at a fraction of conventional costs. The twins, as if sensing the gravity of the moment, colored quietly in their corner. When she finished, the room remained silent for several beats before erupting in questions, not skeptical, but genuinely interested in her methodology and applications. "Your approach is revolutionary," admitted Professor Harrington, particularly your integration of biodegradable components. As the committee filed out, discussing her work in animated tones, Elijah and Emma ran to Maya, wrapping their arms around her legs. "Mama did good water talk," Emma declared. "Yes, sweetheart," Maya smiled, kneeling to their level. "And you two were perfect audience members." That evening in their small apartment, Maya watched the twins sleep, their faces peaceful in the dim light. She had taped their colorful drawings of Mommy's water machines above her desk, alongside her technical diagrams and research notes. While receiving the applause of renowned academics that afternoon, Maya couldn't have suspected that in 10 years, she would be funding the construction of the new Environmental Innovation Center on that very campus. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Stanford's imposing Terman Engineering Building as Maya adjusted her graduation cap, the tassel catching the light. At 24, with 5-year-old twins waiting excitedly with their babysitter in the audience, she stood at the precipice of transformation. The journey from pregnant waitress to today's commencement speaker with dual honors in environmental engineering and business administration felt surreal. "You're up in 5 minutes, Ms. Johnson," the faculty coordinator whispered, handing her a final copy of the program. Maya nodded, scanning the audience until she spotted Elijah and Emma in their matching outfits, fidgeting in their seats. Their presence grounded her, reminding her of every late night, every sacrifice, every moment she'd pushed beyond exhaustion to reach this point. When the dean called her name, the applause was respectful, but unremarkable. Few knew the mountain she had climbed to stand on that stage. As she approached the podium, Maya caught sight of Professor Washington in the faculty section, nodding with unmistakable pride. "Stanford has taught me that obstacles don't block the path," she began, her voice steady. "They become the path itself." She paused, looking directly at her children. "Some of us arrive at this moment having traveled a greater distance than others, not in miles, but in circumstances overcome. What matters isn't where we began, but how we transformed the journey's challenges into foundations for something greater." After the ceremony, amid the sea of black gowns and jubilant families, Maya hugged her children tightly, their small arms wrapped around her neck. "Did I do good, Mommy?" Emma asked, adjusting her miniature Stanford cap, a gift from Professor Harrington. "You did perfect," Maya answered, kissing her forehead. "Both of you. The best graduation present is having you here." The celebratory glow faded quickly in the harsh light of reality. Within 2 weeks, Maya sat across from a hiring manager at Sustainable Solutions, a mid-sized environmental engineering firm in Palo Alto. The interview had progressed promisingly, her portfolio of innovative water purification designs drawing genuine interest. "Your academic credentials are exceptional, Ms. Johnson," the manager said, reviewing her resume. "Stanford dual honors, research publications, impressive recommendations." "Thank you. I'm particularly excited about your company's work in developing regions," Maya responded, maintaining eye contact. "And you'd be available for the quarterly site visits? Each deployment requires approximately 2 weeks on location, often in remote areas." "Yes, I've researched the position requirements thoroughly." The manager's expression shifted subtly. "I notice your personal information mentions dependents. Children, I assume?" Maya felt the familiar tightening in her chest. "Yes, I have 5-year-old twins." "I see." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "And their father?" "Is not in the picture. I've raised them alone while completing my degrees." The manager nodded, a practiced neutral expression failing to mask her reassessment. "That's impressive. Of course, our deployment schedules can be quite demanding. The team often works extended hours, weekends when necessary." "I understand. I've maintained similar schedules throughout my academic career while raising my children." "Yes, well," the manager closed her portfolio. "We have several other candidates to interview. We'll be in touch if your qualifications align with our current needs." Maya recognized the gentle rejection before she reached the parking lot. It was the first of 7 similar interviews that month. Each began with enthusiasm for her credentials and ended with polite dismissal once her family situation became apparent. After a particularly deflating interview at Berkeley Environmental Partners, Maya sat in her car, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The words echoed from her past. Insufficient. Too common. Lacking what's required. She straightened her shoulders. Number not this time. That evening, after tucking the twins into bed, Maya spread her water purification designs across the small dining table of their apartment. 5 years of research, prototypes, and improvements. A system that could provide clean water using sustainable materials at a fraction of conventional costs. If existing companies wouldn't hire her, perhaps it was time to create something entirely new. The Stanford Startup Competition announcement had been pinned to her bulletin board for weeks. With application deadline just days away, Maya worked through the night drafting a business plan. Her system wasn't just a technical innovation. It represented a market opportunity that existing players had overlooked: affordable water purification for developing regions and disaster relief. 2 weeks later, Maya stood in the university exhibition hall, the only black woman among 38 competitors, and certainly the only mother. Her modest display contrasted sharply with elaborate presentations from teams with multiple members and polished prototypes. "Mommy, can I help explain the filtration part?" Elijah whispered, standing beside her table as she arranged her demonstration unit. "Not today, sweetheart. Today you and Emma are just watching, remember?" Maya adjusted his collar. The twins sat obediently on chairs behind her display, coloring books open on their laps, promised ice cream if they maintained perfect behavior. As judges circulated the hall, Maya caught snippets of whispered comments as they approached her station. Single mother, probably a class project, admirable effort. When the judging panel finally reached her table, Maya took a deep breath. "Good afternoon. I'm Maya Johnson, presenting the Sustain Pure Water Filtration System." For the next 10 minutes, she commanded their complete attention, demonstrating how her prototype transformed visibly contaminated water into crystal-clear, potable water in under 60 seconds. "The key innovation isn't just the filtration efficiency," she explained, "but the materials science. Every component is either biodegradable or recyclable, manufactured using locally sourced materials even in resource-poor settings." The head judge, a silver-haired venture capitalist, examined the water samples. "And production costs?" 87% lower than current market solutions with comparable purification metrics, Maya answered without hesitation. "I've developed a complete manufacturing and distribution model, including pricing strategies for humanitarian organizations versus commercial applications." As the judges moved to the next display, Maya caught a glimpse of their evaluation sheet, the column of high scores bringing her first genuine smile in weeks. When the competition results were announced, the exhibition hall fell momentarily silent as Maya's name was called for first place. The applause that followed felt like vindication as she walked to the stage, twins trailing behind her, hands clasped in hers. "Remarkable innovation presented with exceptional clarity," the announcement cited, addressing a critical global need with elegant simplicity. As she accepted the prize, a modest $10,000 grant and mentorship opportunities, an older gentleman approached her at the reception. "Ms. Johnson, Gregory Richardson," he introduced himself, offering his hand. "30 years in tech investment, and I haven't seen something this promising in a decade." Maya recognized the name immediately, a legendary early investor in several Silicon Valley success stories. "Your filtration system isn't just good engineering," he continued. "It's disruptive technology with global application. I'd like to discuss potential investment." 2 days later, they met at a quiet cafe near campus. Richardson listened intently as Maya outlined her vision, occasionally asking penetrating questions that demonstrated his deep understanding of both technology and markets. "I'm prepared to offer initial funding of $250,000, he finally said, "for a 20% equity stake." Maya had anticipated this moment, running calculations for days. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Richardson, but I'm seeking more modest dilution at this stage. 15% equity would be my counter-proposal." Richardson's eyebrows rose slightly. "Most first-time entrepreneurs in your position would accept immediately." "I'm not most entrepreneurs," Maya replied evenly. "And this isn't just a business for me, it's a mission." When they finally shook hands an hour later, the agreement stood at 18% equity for $300,000, enough to secure a small industrial space, purchase essential equipment, and hire initial staff. Within a month, Maya signed the lease on an abandoned warehouse in East Palo Alto, far from the gleaming tech campuses, but affordable and spacious enough to serve as both laboratory and manufacturing facility. The Johnson Innovation Tech was officially born. The hiring process revealed another layer of challenges. Most male engineers couldn't hide their skepticism at being interviewed by a young black woman with children occasionally visible in her makeshift office. "Your resume mentions Stanford, but what actual industry experience do you have?" asked one particularly condescending applicant, a middle-aged engineer with 20 years at established firms. "I've developed a water purification system that outperforms industry standards by 40% while reducing costs by nearly 90%, Maya responded coolly. "What innovations have you brought to market, Mr. Carlson?" After interviewing 23 candidates, Maya found her team: Jessica Chen, a brilliant chemical engineer who asked questions about the filtration membrane instead of Maya's children, and David Okafor, a recent mechanical engineering graduate who spoke passionately about humanitarian applications. The day Maya signed her first contract, a modest $30,000 agreement with Global Water Relief to provide purification systems for a pilot program in Ethiopia, she allowed herself a moment of pure satisfaction. The twins had helped her decorate the small office area with a hand-painted sign, "Johnson Innovation Tech, Clean Water for All." That evening, as she tucked Emma and Elijah into bed in their new apartment, still modest but with separate bedrooms for the first time, Maya kissed their foreheads. "We did it," she whispered. "This is just the beginning." While signing that first contract for $30,000, Maya couldn't imagine that in 10 years she would be declining acquisition offers of billions, including a desperate attempt from Crawford Enterprises. The morning after signing her first contract, Maya woke to the sound of Elijah coughing. At 5, he was prone to respiratory infections, and the cool dawn air filtering through their apartment's drafty windows hadn't helped. She placed a hand on his forehead, warm, but not alarmingly so. Another challenge to navigate before her day officially began. "Can you still go to school, buddy?" she asked, already calculating backup options if he couldn't. Elijah nodded bravely. "I'm okay, Mommy. I want to learn about dinosaurs today." By 6:30, Maya had administered children's medicine, prepared breakfast, packed lunches, and reviewed production schedules for the day, all while rehearsing her pitch for a potential investor visiting the warehouse. The twins' babysitter would bring them to the facility after school, another day of homework at a makeshift table while Maya worked into the evening. The 2 years that followed the founding of Johnson Innovation Tech unfolded in a relentless sequence of triumphs and setbacks. The warehouse space gradually transformed, walls demolished to accommodate expanding equipment, lab sections cordoned off with plastic sheeting, the small office area filling with charts tracking growth and projections. "Ms. Johnson, I believe there's been a misunderstanding," said the component supplier on the phone, his voice carrying a patronizing edge. "The quote I provided was our standard rate. For a company, like yours, the terms would necessarily be different." Maya's grip tightened on the receiver. "A company like mine? You mean a legally registered California corporation with excellent credit and confirmed purchase orders? Well, startups have higher risk profiles, especially when they're unconventionally managed. I'm sure you understand." "What I understand," Maya replied, her voice dangerously calm, is that you're attempting to charge me 30% above market rate for basic filtration components. What you fail to understand is that I've already received 3 competing quotes, all significantly lower than yours." The silence on the line stretched for several seconds. Perhaps we could revisit our initial figures. These encounters became routine. Suppliers attempting to exploit perceived inexperience, investors directing questions to David instead of her during presentations, competitors dismissing her technology until they couldn't ignore its effectiveness. 6 months after launching, Maya discovered a competitor had released a filtration system suspiciously similar to her design. The marketing materials even echoed her language about sustainability and accessibility. "They copied everything except the efficiency," Jessica noted, examining the rival product in their lab. "Their filtration rate is barely 60% of ours." Maya studied the competitor's system, noting where they'd misunderstood crucial elements of her design. "You can copy my product but not my innovation pipeline," she said, reaching for her notebook. "Let's accelerate the development of version 2. The routine that sustained this growing enterprise bordered on superhuman. Maya woke at 5 each morning, preparing the twins for school while reviewing international supplier emails that had arrived overnight. She worked at the facility until school dismissal, when the twins would arrive to complete homework in her office. Dinner often consisted of takeout eaten over prototype discussions, the children absorbing technical terms as naturally as playground vocabulary. After tucking them into bed, Maya would return to work, refining designs, analyzing test results, pursuing grants and contracts until well past midnight. Sleep came in precious 4-hour increments, never quite enough to dispel the perpetual fatigue that had become her constant companion. "Mommy, why is your pillow on the couch again?" Emma asked one morning, finding Maya asleep amidst spreadsheets, her laptop still open beside her. "Mommy had numbers to finish, sweetheart," Maya answered, realizing she hadn't made it to bed for the 3rd night that week. Elijah and Emma adapted to this unconventional childhood with remarkable resilience. They learned to speak softly when Maya was on business calls, to occupy themselves during lengthy lab tests, to understand that Mommy's working face meant questions needed to wait. Their makeshift play area in the corner of the warehouse became their second home, homework completed to the background symphony of pumps and filtration systems. The twins absorbed their environment like sponges. At 7, Elijah could explain basic principles of water purification to visitors. Emma, with her natural charm, had become an unofficial company ambassador, greeting potential clients with a confidence that belied her age. During one investor meeting, a venture capitalist leaned forward with curiosity. "Crawford, isn't that a name in real estate? Do you have some connection to the Chicago Crawfords?" Maya didn't miss a beat. "No, sir. Johnson Innovation is 100% my creation without external affiliations." She had maintained this absolute separation between her past and present. The check from Liam had been her first and last contact with anything Crawford. The twins knew nothing of their paternity beyond Maya's careful explanation that their father wasn't brave enough to be part of our family. The pain of rejection had transmuted into fierce independence. Every milestone achieved without leveraging his name felt like vindication. By the time Emma and Elijah turned 9, Johnson Innovation Tech had expanded to 15 employees. The operation had outgrown its initial warehouse, necessitating a move to larger facilities. The company had secured patents for 7 key technologies, with 20 more pending. A local news outlet featured a short segment on the engineer mom revolutionizing water access, bringing unexpected attention. The reporter seemed more interested in the novelty of a young black woman with children running a tech startup than in the technology itself. "How do you balance motherhood with being a CEO?" the reporter asked, camera focusing on the children's play area rather than the filtration systems. "I don't balance them, I integrate them," Maya answered. "My children understand that our work here saves lives. They're part of that mission." The unexpected publicity brought inquiries from larger humanitarian organizations. When drought conditions created a water crisis in a rural California community, Maya organized the donation of several purification systems, personally overseeing their installation. These units can process up to 5,000 gallons daily, she explained to the community leaders, demonstrating the simple maintenance procedures. They'll remain functional for at least 5 years with basic care. For 72 hours, Maya worked alongside local volunteers, sleeping only in brief increments. The crisis response generated national attention. A brief segment on evening news showing her technology providing clean water to a grateful community. Within weeks, a state government representative contacted her office. "The governor was impressed by your rapid deployment capabilities. We'd like to discuss potential contracts for emergency preparedness." The resulting agreement, small by industry standards but significant for Johnson Innovation Tech, marked their first government contract. Maya signed the papers in her office, now housed in a renovated industrial building with proper laboratory facilities and manufacturing capacity. Later that evening, the company gathered to celebrate reaching $1 million in annual revenue. The team had grown to 23 people, engineers, technicians, and administrative staff who believed in Maya's vision of accessible clean water technology. "When I started this company," Maya addressed the group, emotion making her voice slightly unsteady, "conventional wisdom said it would fail. A single mother without industry connections or venture capital backing didn't fit the success profile." She paused, looking around at the faces of people who had joined her unlikely journey. "But we're rewriting that profile. 1 million is just the beginning." As the celebration continued, Maya slipped away to her office, taking a moment to absorb the magnitude of this milestone. The worn notebook containing her first filtration designs sat on her shelf, a reminder of nights studying while the twins slept in portable cribs beside her. A soft knock interrupted her reflection. Elijah and Emma entered, carefully carrying a lopsided chocolate cake with uneven frosting and a single candle. "We made it ourselves," Emma announced proudly. Ms. Chen helped with the oven part. "For the best mom and CEO in the world," Elijah added, his serious expression giving way to a wide smile. Maya felt tears threaten as she gathered them close. This makeshift celebration in a startup office with a homemade cake meant more than any formal recognition. While blowing out the candle on that improvised cake, Maya couldn't imagine that in a few years she would be blowing out candles at technology galas, recognized as one of the most revolutionary entrepreneurs of her generation. The misshapen chocolate cake with its single candle became a tradition for each company milestone. Maya preserved the memory with a photo pinned to her office wall, a reminder of what truly mattered amid the accelerating pace of success that followed. As Johnson Innovation Tech crossed the $1 million threshold, the trajectory steepened dramatically, catapulting the company into an entirely new realm of possibilities. On a crisp spring morning in 2018, Maya stood before the gleaming glass facade of their new headquarters in San Francisco's emerging tech corridor. The sustainable building, with its vertical gardens and solar array, embodied everything Johnson Innovation Tech represented: innovation with purpose, technology serving humanity, progress without environmental compromise. "It feels surreal," Jessica Chen whispered beside her, now Chief Technology Officer. 3 years ago, we were working in that leaky warehouse." Maya nodded, watching staff members enter the building with badge-activated security. 150 employees now depended on her vision and leadership. "We've only just begun," she replied, straightening her tailored blazer, a far cry from the second-hand suits of earlier investor meetings. Inside her spacious office, Maya examined the third-generation prototype of their water purification system. The sleek device bore little resemblance to her original crude model, yet maintained the core innovation that made it revolutionary. 70% more efficient than their first commercial version, it could transform contaminated water into potable supply using minimal energy and completely sustainable components. "The representatives from Brazil and Indonesia have arrived," her assistant announced. "They're waiting in conference room A with the teams from Thailand, Kenya, and India." Multiple international delegations in one day would have been unimaginable months earlier. Now, governments and NGOs worldwide sought Johnson technology for regions plagued by water insecurity. Maya straightened her shoulders and headed toward the meeting, international patent documentation tucked under her arm. The family side of her life evolved with equal velocity. Now 9 years old, Elijah and Emma revealed extraordinary talents that both delighted and challenged Maya. That evening, she arrived home to find Elijah hunched over complex calculations spread across the dining table. "Honey, what are you working on? That looks like advanced algebra," Maya asked, setting down her laptop bag. Elijah barely looked up, pencil moving rapidly across the page. "The engineering team's calculations for the membrane density were wrong. I found an error in their differential equation." Maya examined his work, astonishment washing over her as she recognized he was correct. The senior engineer's calculations contained a subtle but significant error that Elijah had not only identified but corrected. "How did you figure this out?" she asked, sitting beside him. He shrugged. "It just made sense in my head." The following week brought another surprise when Emma casually translated for visiting Chinese investors, her pronunciation so perfect that the delegation broke into spontaneous applause. "Where did you learn Mandarin?" Maya asked afterward. "From Mrs. Lin at school. She's been teaching me during lunch breaks," Emma explained, as if learning a complex language in spare moments were perfectly ordinary. "I'm also learning Russian from language apps. It's fun." These revelations coincided with a letter that arrived one crisp autumn morning, bearing the crest of Westridge Academy, one of the most prestigious boarding schools on the East Coast. "Dear Ms. Johnson," the letter began, "it is with great enthusiasm that we extend full scholarship offers to both Elijah and Emma Johnson. In our 75-year history, we have rarely encountered young minds with such extraordinary potential." Maya sat heavily on the sofa, letter trembling in her hands. Westridge typically educated the children of old money and political dynasties. The twins' academic evaluations had apparently caught the attention of the school's talent recruitment program, triggering an unprecedented dual scholarship offer. That night, after the children were asleep, Maya researched Westridge obsessively. The campus resembled a small college, with state-of-the-art laboratories, language immersion programs, and individualized learning paths for exceptional students. It represented opportunities she could never provide, even with her growing success, a gateway to elite universities and networks that could propel the twins beyond even her rapidly expanding horizons. Yet the thought of separation carved a hollow space in her chest. Since their birth, the three had been inseparable, a unified front against a world that had initially offered nothing but obstacles. 2 weeks later, Maya sat the twins down in their living room for the most difficult conversation they'd ever had. "There's an opportunity for you both," she began carefully. "A very special school has offered you positions, the kind of education I always dreamed of providing." "Would we live there?" Elijah asked, quick as always to grasp implications. "Yes, it's on the East Coast. You'd come home for holidays and summers," Maya explained, studying their faces for reactions. Emma's brow furrowed. "But who would take care of you, Mom?" The question nearly undid Maya's careful composure. Even at 9, Emma's first concern was for others. "This isn't about me," Maya explained, gathering both children close. "When I was your age, opportunities were closed to me because of where I came from, what I looked like, how little money we had. I've worked so hard to make sure you never face those same barriers." "Are you making us go?" Elijah asked quietly. "Never. This is your choice, both of you. But I want to give you what I never had." The discussion continued for days. Maya arranged a virtual tour of Westridge, conversations with faculty, and even a weekend visit to the campus. By spring, the decision was made. The twins would begin at Westridge that fall. The drive to the airport was silent, Maya's knuckles white on the steering wheel as she fought to maintain composure. At the departure gate, she straightened Emma's collar and checked Elijah's carry-on one final time. Remember, you can call any time, day or night, she reminded them unnecessarily. I'll fly out if you need me, no matter what. We'll be okay, Mom, Elijah assured her with surprising maturity. This is statistically the optimal educational pathway. Emma hugged Maya fiercely. We'll make you proud. You already have, Maya whispered, holding them both as the boarding announcement echoed overhead. Every single day. Watching their plane disappear into clouds, Maya permitted herself exactly 5 minutes of tears in the airport parking lot before driving directly to a board meeting. The company couldn't stop for personal pain. That evening, Maya entered her apartment to absolute silence for the first time in 12 years. No homework questions, no bedtime stories, no small sneakers by the door. The emptiness echoed with physical presence. She wandered from room to room, touching abandoned toys, school projects proudly displayed on walls, the height chart marked with careful dates in the kitchen doorframe. The twins adapted to Westridge with characteristic resilience, their video calls filled with excited reports of advanced mathematics classes and language immersion programs. Maya threw herself into work with renewed intensity, channeling the ache of separation into explosive company growth. As Johnson Innovation Tech's profile rose, Maya found herself invited to speak at major technology conferences. Her first keynote address at the Global Sustainability Summit drew unexpected attention, not just for the technology she presented, but for her compelling personal narrative. The most valuable innovation often comes from those who understand scarcity firsthand, she told the audience of industry leaders. When you've experienced what it means to lack essential resources, you approach solutions differently. The business press took notice. Tech Innovator magazine featured her in a cover profile, From Waitress to Water Revolutionary, Maya Johnson's Improbable Journey. The article detailed her rise from single motherhood to leading a rapidly growing technology company valued at over $300 million. During this period of professional visibility, Maya maintained weekly video calls with the twins, now thriving academically at Westridge. Elijah had been selected for advanced placement in the school's prestigious science track, while Emma had won the regional piano competition despite being years younger than most competitors. "Look what I got!" Emma exclaimed during one call, proudly displaying a gleaming trophy. "First place! And I qualified for the National Math Olympics," Elijah added, barely containing his excitement. Maya's heart swelled with pride. "I can't wait to celebrate with you both in New York next month." The following week brought a watershed moment when United Nations representatives visited Johnson Innovation Tech headquarters. The meeting culminated in Maya signing a $50 million contract to provide purification systems for refugee camps across 3 continents, the company's largest agreement to date. "Your technology could save literally millions of lives," the UN Development Director stated as cameras captured the signing ceremony. Later that evening, alone in her office overlooking San Francisco's glittering skyline, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The company she had built from nothing now employed hundreds, served communities worldwide, and held 27 patents. The twins were flourishing in an educational environment once reserved for society's elite. Every barrier Liam Crawford had cited, education, connections, presence, had fallen before her determination. As she signed the $50 million contract with the UN, Maya didn't know that across the country, Liam Crawford was watching a report about her on CNBC, recognizing for the first time the face of the woman he had abandoned, now celebrated as a visionary business leader. The CNBC anchor's voice filled Liam Crawford's penthouse as he loosened his tie, another grueling day of emergency meetings behind him. Tonight's spotlight features one of technology's rising stars, Maya Johnson, founder and CEO of Johnson Innovation Tech, whose water purification systems are revolutionizing access to clean water globally. Liam's hand froze midway through pouring his scotch. Something about the name tugged at his memory. He turned toward the television, where a striking black woman in her early 30s was addressing a conference room of attentive executives. Her tailored navy suit and confident posture commanded respect, but it was her eyes that caught his attention, determined eyes he'd once looked into across a mahogany desk. "Wait," he muttered, moving closer to the screen. "Johnson. Maya Johnson?" The camera zoomed in as she demonstrated a sleek filtration device. "Our third-generation technology reduces contamination by 99.7% while consuming 80% less energy than competing systems," she explained with practiced eloquence. Liam sank into his leather armchair, recognition dawning fully. The waitress from Riverfront Cafe, the girl he'd dismissed with a check and security escort, now commanded a boardroom with the assurance of someone born to power. The segment continued, highlighting Johnson Innovation Tech's rapid growth and recent contracts in Asia and Africa. With recent valuations exceeding $700 million, Johnson has emerged as one of the most significant new players in sustainable technology, the anchor concluded. The scotch forgotten, Liam pulled out his phone, searching Maya Johnson CEO with trembling fingers. Dozens of recent articles appeared. Engineering visionary transforms water access. Johnson Innovation Tech secures major UN contract. From single mother to tech pioneer. Single mother. The phrase caught his eye, sending a chill through his body. He clicked on the article, scanning until he found the paragraph. Johnson launched her company while raising twins as a single parent, often bringing her young children to early investor meetings when childcare fell through. Twins. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Had she been pregnant when she came to his office? The timing aligned perfectly with that uncomfortable encounter he'd tried so hard to forget. Liam searched more frantically, looking for photos of the children, but found the articles carefully focused on Maya's professional accomplishments, her family life notably private. Sleep eluded him that night as memories resurfaced. Maya standing in his office, her waitress uniform visible beneath her coat, his cruel dismissal, the security guards leading her away. He'd offered money to make her disappear, and she had, only to re-emerge as a force he could scarcely comprehend. Across the country in San Francisco, Maya reviewed quarterly projections in her corner office. The Johnson Innovation Tech headquarters hummed with activity, engineers refining designs, marketing teams coordinating international campaigns, production managers overseeing manufacturing schedules. From her window, she could see 3 buildings bearing the company logo, housing 750 employees. "The Bangalore team is ready for your call, Ms. Johnson," her executive assistant announced, "and Emma and Elijah will be video conferencing at 4. Maya nodded, momentarily allowing her professional mask to soften at the mention of her children. Now 13, the twins thrived at Westridge Academy, their academic accomplishments accumulating with dizzying speed. Their weekly video calls remained sacred time, regardless of business demands. That afternoon, as multinational contracts were finalized and patent applications submitted, Maya closed her office door precisely at 4 o'clock. The large monitor on her wall illuminated with Elijah and Emma's faces, their Westridge uniforms impeccable. "Mom, guess what? I developed an algorithm that optimizes water distribution based on population density and contamination levels," Elijah announced without preamble, his eyes, startlingly blue against his brown skin, bright with excitement. "And I qualified for the international piano competition in Vienna," Emma added, her smile revealing recently removed braces. "Plus, my Mandarin essay won first place in the national language competition." Pride swelled in Maya's chest. "That's incredible, both of you. I'm booking flights to Vienna right now. Wild horses couldn't keep me from hearing you play." As the twins enthusiastically detailed their achievements, Maya studied their faces, seeing echoes of herself, but also unmistakable traces of Liam. Elijah's determined jaw, Emma's analytical gaze. She had never regretted keeping his identity from them, describing their father only as someone who wasn't brave enough to be part of our family. The truth waited in a locked drawer in her home office, photographs and newspaper clippings she'd preserved not out of sentiment, but as reminders of what she'd overcome. Meanwhile, in Chicago, the Crawford Enterprises headquarters presented a stark contrast to Johnson Innovation Tech's vibrant campus. Once occupying 3 floors of prime downtown real estate, operations had contracted to a single floor with numerous empty offices. Following Robert Crawford's death 5 years earlier, the century-old real estate empire had begun a steady decline under Liam's leadership. "The Shanghai investors are wavering," his CFO reported grimly. "They're concerned about our debt-to-asset ratio and the Taylor Square project delays." Liam massaged his temples, feeling the beginning of another migraine. "Schedule a call. I'll handle them personally." His executive office, once a showcase of power with its panoramic city views, now felt like a mausoleum to fading glory. The Chicago Tribune business section lay open on his desk, featuring yet another analysis of Crawford Enterprises' struggles. Historic Chicago developer faces financing challenges amid shifting market. That evening, Liam returned to his Gold Coast mansion to find his wife, Catherine, a socialite from another venerable Chicago family, waiting with barely contained fury. "The Blakely Foundation declined our donation," she announced, diamond bracelets clinking as she gestured angrily. "Said they're assessing partner relationships. Everyone knows what that means. They don't want to associate with a failing name." "We're not failing," Liam snapped. "We're restructuring. The Crawford name still means something in this city." "Does it?" Catherine challenged. "Your father's contacts won't return your calls. The mayor attended Johnson Innovation's environmental awards ceremony last month, but sent his deputy to your industry dinner." "What does Johnson have to do with anything?" Liam demanded, his voice sharper than intended. Catherine rolled her eyes. "It was an example, Liam. The point is, everyone's abandoning the sinking ship while you rearrange deck chairs. You don't understand. We're at the brink of bankruptcy." Their argument escalated, echoing through the too-large house that had once symbolized Crawford prosperity. Later, alone in his study, Liam returned to his obsessive research about Maya Johnson. Her trajectory from the disastrous meeting in his office to international acclaim seemed impossible, yet the evidence mounted with each article he discovered. The watershed moment came when Forbes released its annual issue featuring America's self-made billionaires. Maya Johnson graced the cover, standing confidently between 2 teenagers in formal attire. The headline read, "America's newest billionaire and her prodigy twins. How Maya Johnson built a water empire against all odds." Liam's hands trembled as he stared at the teenagers flanking Maya. The boy, tall and serious in his tuxedo, had Liam's jawline and bearing. The girl's smile, his mother's smile, paired with Maya's determined eyes. There was no denying the evidence before him. These were his children. Children he had rejected before even knowing of their existence. Heirs he had dismissed with the same casual cruelty he'd shown their mother. The magazine slipped from his fingers as the full weight of realization crushed him. While he'd been losing his father's empire, Maya had built something greater from nothing. While he'd been trading on a family name 4 generations old, she'd created a new legacy that would endure long after Crawford Enterprises became a footnote in Chicago's business history. Most devastating of all, the children who should have carried the Crawford name, children who clearly possessed extraordinary gifts, would never know him as their father. His legacy, the continuation of the dynasty he'd valued above all else, stood on that magazine cover bearing the name Johnson. As Maya toasted her billionaire status with champagne alongside her executive team, Liam Crawford stared at the Forbes photo, realizing with horror that he had not only lost the woman he'd discarded, but also the children he never knew existed, heirs who now would be worth far more than the Crawford name. Liam Crawford stared at the Forbes magazine until his eyes burned, the faces of the children he'd never known seared into his consciousness. These teenagers, poised, brilliant, accomplished, were his blood, yet strangers to him. His fingers traced their features on the glossy paper, identifying his own chin in the boy, his mother's elegant hands in the girl. The dynasty he had been so desperate to protect had continued without him, flourishing beyond anything the Crawford name had achieved. A notification on his phone shattered his reverie. A calendar reminder for the Fortune Business Awards Gala at the Waldorf Astoria the following week. Under normal circumstances, such events had become torture for Liam, watching former peers and competitors exchange knowing glances as he entered rooms, whispers about Crawford Enterprises' decline following in his wake. But this notification sent a jolt of adrenaline through his system. The gala's headline, Honoree, Maya Johnson, Entrepreneur of the Year. After 15 years, they would be in the same room again. In San Francisco, Maya's executive suite buzzed with activity as her team prepared for the New York trip. At 34, she commanded her empire with the quiet confidence that came from building something extraordinary from nothing. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed a panoramic view of the city, Johnson Innovation Tech's 3 buildings visible in the landscape. The Chinese delegation has agreed to the terms, her VP of International Development reported. That brings us to 37 countries with active implementation. Maya nodded, scanning the contract details on her tablet. Schedule the signing ceremony for after we return from New York. And has PR finalized the press release for the Fortune Award? Yes, though they're pushing for more personal details. The single mother overcomes odds angle generates tremendous goodwill. Maya smiled thinly. They have enough of my personal life. The technology speaks for itself. Later that evening, aboard her private jet heading to New York, Maya prepared her acceptance speech while the twins bickered good-naturedly over a chess game in the cabin's lounge area. Your infiltration strategy is fundamentally flawed, Elijah observed, moving his knight with calculated precision. Emma rolled her eyes. Not everything requires mathematical analysis, brother. Sometimes intuition trumps algorithms. At 15, they had grown into remarkable young adults. Elijah, with his father's height and piercing blue eyes, had already published 2 papers on computational mathematics. Emma, combining Maya's grace with Liam's analytical mind, spoke 5 languages fluently and had performed at Carnegie Hall the previous spring. Maya watched them with quiet pride. Every sacrifice, every 16-hour workday, every moment of exhaustion had led to this. Children who moved through the world with confidence she had been forced to manufacture through sheer will. Mom, are you reviewing your speech again? Emma asked, noticing Maya's focused expression. You could recite it backward by now. Just making sure I've acknowledged everyone properly, Maya replied, though her thoughts had drifted to the guest list her assistant had provided. The gala would gather America's business elite, Fortune 500 CEOs, venture capitalists, tech pioneers, all witnesses to her moment of recognition. Would any of them remember her as the waitress from Riverfront Cafe? Across the country, Liam meticulously prepared for his own New York trip, though with considerably less fanfare. His assistant had booked a standard room at a mid-tier hotel. The days of presidential suites had ended with the latest round of budget cuts. The Crawford Enterprises team had arranged meetings with potential Chinese investors, a last-ditch effort to secure funding for the floundering Taylor Square development. In his hotel room the evening before the gala, Liam rehearsed his pitch to the investors, the words sounding hollow even to his own ears. Crawford Enterprises represents 4 generations of development excellence. He trailed off, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, the gray at his temples, the worry lines etched around his eyes, the expensive but noticeably worn suit that had fit better 20 pounds ago. How had it come to this? The Crawford name had once opened every door in Chicago. Now he was reduced to begging foreign investors to save his family's legacy, while Maya Johnson, the woman he'd dismissed as insufficient, prepared to accept one of business's highest honors. The Waldorf Astoria ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers as America's corporate royalty mingled over champagne and carefully curated hors d'oeuvres. Maya entered with practiced poise, the twins following with natural elegance. Emma wore a tailored navy blue dress that complemented her complexion perfectly, while Elijah's custom tuxedo gave him the bearing of someone far beyond his 15 years. Photographers swarmed immediately, capturing the trio's entrance. "Ms. Johnson, how does it feel to be named Entrepreneur of the Year?" "Emma, are you following your mother into business?" "Elijah, Stanford has already offered you early admission, is that correct?" Maya navigated the questions with diplomatic skill, one hand protectively guiding each child through the crowd until they reached their designated table near the stage. The place cards read like a who's who of American business: tech founders, investment gurus, sustainability pioneers. 5 tables away, Liam Crawford adjusted his tie nervously, reviewing his investor notes one final time before the Chen Group representatives arrived. The gala provided the perfect backdrop for impressing potential partners. Surrounding himself with success might camouflage his company's precarious position. He glanced around, recognizing former Harvard classmates who now ran companies worth billions, none aware that Crawford Enterprises teetered months away from insolvency. The evening proceeded with practiced efficiency: welcome speeches, awards for innovation and lifetime achievement, elegant dinner service. Liam barely registered the conversations around him, his attention divided between the approaching investor meeting and scanning the crowd for Maya. He spotted her finally, holding court at her table, laughing confidently with the CEO of a major tech firm. Then the moment arrived. The master of ceremonies approached the podium, tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's Entrepreneur of the Year, founder and CEO of Johnson Innovation Tech, Maya Johnson." The ballroom erupted in applause. Liam looked up distractedly, expecting to see another faceless executive. The champagne flute slipped from his fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor as Maya rose gracefully from her seat. In her burgundy gown that surely cost more than his first sports car, she commanded attention without effort. But it wasn't Maya alone who caused Liam's blood to drain from his face. The teenagers flanking her moved with natural confidence toward the stage. The boy, tall, poised, with Liam's own chin and bearing. The girl, her elegant composure a perfect blend of Maya's determination and something hauntingly familiar from Liam's own family photographs. "My God," he whispered, gripping the table edge as realization crashed over him. On stage, Maya radiated authority under the spotlights. 15 years ago, I was a young pregnant woman, unemployed with 2 babies on the way and a man who told me I wasn't enough for his world." Her voice, amplified by the microphone, carried powerful resonance. Today, Johnson Innovation Tech employs 2,800 people, holds 43 patents, is valued at nearly $5 billion, and provides clean water to 17 million people in underserved countries. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Liam remained paralyzed in his seat. "I built this empire while cradling 2 infants in my arms," Maya continued, without ever mentioning the name of the man who thought money could buy my silence, or that his surname was worth more than our dignity. Her eyes swept across the audience, and for a terrible moment, Liam feared recognition. But Maya continued seamlessly. "For every door closed by prejudice, I opened 3 with innovation. For every investor who suggested that a single black mother couldn't lead a technology company, I proved my vision transcended their limitations." While she thanked her team, Liam studied the teenagers seated at the table of honor. His children. Children he had never known, never watched grow up. Children who, from what he could see, were exceptional. Well-dressed, well-educated, confident. Everything he had hoped his heirs would be. At the end of the speech, the audience rose in standing ovation. Liam remained seated, devastated by the revelation. His tablemate commented, "Impressive, isn't she? They say she turned down acquisition offers of $7 billion. What a story of overcoming adversity." "Yes, impressive," Liam murmured, mentally calculating that Maya's empire now was worth 10 times more than the crumbling remains of Crawford Enterprises. During the cocktail reception that followed, Liam observed from a distance as executives and politicians gravitated toward Maya. She laughed with ease, introduced her children with evident pride. It was like watching an alternate universe, one where he had made all the wrong choices. Finally, gathering courage and seizing a moment when Maya stepped away to get a drink, Liam approached. "Maya," his voice faltered. She froze, the mineral water glass suspended in midair. Turning slowly, her eyes met his, not with hatred or fear, but with something worse, absolute indifference. Liam Crawford. What a surprise. "I didn't know, never imagined," he stammered, "that I would survive without you? Or that your children would become extraordinary people without your name?" Maya questioned, keeping her voice controlled. "Which part exactly surprises you? Children? So they really are." Liam couldn't finish. "Twins. Elijah and Emma. 15 years old today, actually." Maya smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I should thank you, you know. That check you gave me? I paid for my college with it. The rest we invested in Apple stock. It was our first profitable investment." Before Liam could respond, Emma approached, her curious eyes fixed on him. "Mom, the governor wants to speak with you about the Nevada project," she said, before studying Liam more closely. "Excuse me, but do we know each other? You seem strangely familiar." Liam paled further. Maya maintained perfect composure. "Emma, this is Liam Crawford, an old acquaintance. Mr. Crawford, this is my daughter, Emma Johnson." Emma tilted her head, analyzing him. "Crawford, like the real estate company that's on the verge of bankruptcy? I read about you in the Wall Street Journal last week." Liam swallowed hard, humiliated by the teenager's accurate observation. "Emma has a special talent for financial analysis," explained Maya. "At 13, she suggested our expansion into solar energy, which now represents 30% of our revenue." At that moment, Elijah also approached. The resemblance was undeniable. It was like looking at himself 15 years ago, except the boy's eyes had a kindness Liam recognized he hadn't possessed in his youth. "You look a lot like that man in the photo Mom keeps in the cedar box," Elijah commented abruptly, always direct. "The one she said was someone who wasn't brave enough to love us." The ballroom seemed to spin around Liam. Important people were watching now, noticing the palpable tension. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," suggested Maya, professional as always. While Maya was soaring to new heights, receiving standing ovations from the business elite who once would have dismissed her, Liam Crawford was facing the consequences of his callous rejection 15 years earlier, not just of a woman he deemed unworthy, but of the extraordinary children who now represented a legacy far greater than anything the Crawford name had achieved. The exclusive terrace of the Waldorf Astoria offered a stunning nighttime view of Manhattan, the city lights creating a glittering backdrop for the confrontation 15 years in the making. Maya led the way, her burgundy gown catching the light as she moved with practiced grace. Liam followed, his steps less certain, his once commanding presence diminished by the weight of realization. The twins hesitated at the doorway, exchanging a glance loaded with unspoken questions before stepping onto the terrace. "So you kept a photo of me all these years?" Liam attempted, searching for any sign of sentiment beneath Maya's professional veneer. "I maintained adequate records. I'm a businesswoman after all." Maya crossed her arms, the diamond bracelet on her wrist catching the light. The twins had the right to know they had a father, even one who chose not to be part of their lives. "I didn't know they were twins. You never told me." "You never asked, Liam. You never tried to find out. In 15 years, you never sought to discover if your child, or children, had even been born." Maya regarded him with clinical detachment. "Curiously, Crawford Enterprises has offices in San Francisco. You could have easily found me when I started appearing in the press 7 years ago." Liam ran his hand through his now slightly graying hair. "Maya, I was young, stupid, scared, and I was a black waitress from the South Side who was insufficient and whom you discarded like trash," Maya completed. "Funny how life comes full circle. Your company is drowning in debt while my common girl built something you couldn't buy even in your best days. Please, Liam begged, let me meet them. I can explain. Make up for lost time. Make up? Maya laughed, but it was an empty sound. Elijah is a prodigy in advanced mathematics. Emma plays 5 instruments and speaks 4 languages. Both skipped 2 grade levels. What exactly do you think you can add to their lives now? I'm their father. No, Liam. You're the man who genetically contributed to their existence. A father is someone who shows up, who attends, who sacrifices. Maya kept her voice calm but cutting. Do you know what Elijah asked on his 5th birthday? Why doesn't Daddy love me enough to watch me play soccer? Do you have any idea what it's like to explain rejection to a child? Liam felt the weight of those words like a physical blow. I can change that. I have legal rights. Actually, you don't. Maya smiled, a cold, calculated smile. That confidentiality agreement your lawyers made me sign, I subtly modified it before returning it. If you read it carefully, you waived all parental rights in exchange for my silence about your paternity. My attorneys found it fascinating how your legal team never noticed the alteration. Liam's face went completely pale. You can't prevent them from knowing who I am. I don't need to. Maya gestured toward the ballroom. They're intelligent enough to draw their own conclusions. The question, Liam, is whether you're prepared for them to discover exactly who you are, the man who considered his own daughter and son an error to be erased. Inside the ballroom, the gala continued in full swing. Emma stood near the dessert table, observing the interaction on the terrace with keen interest. Elijah had positioned himself strategically near the door, his posture tense. They've never had a father figure, Maya continued, her voice softening slightly. By choice, not necessity. Successful men have expressed interest in me over the years. I chose to remain unattached because I wouldn't risk bringing someone into their lives who might leave. Because of what I did, Liam whispered. Yes. Your rejection shaped more than you could possibly understand. Maya's professional mask slipped momentarily, revealing a glimpse of old pain. But it also forged something powerful. Every time a door closed in my face, I remembered your words and became more determined to prove them wrong. The terrace door opened, and Elijah stepped out, his features composed but his eyes, Liam's eyes, intense with curiosity and caution. Mom, Emma and I would like to join this conversation, he said, his voice deeper than Liam expected, on the edge of manhood. If that's acceptable, Emma followed, elegant and poised. We deserve to hear whatever is being discussed about us. Maya nodded, her expression softening immediately when addressing her children. You're right. This concerns you most of all. Are you our biological father? Elijah asked Liam directly, the question hanging in the night air like crystal. Liam swallowed hard. Yes. Why did you leave? Emma's question was equally direct, her analytical gaze, so like his mother's, assessing his every reaction. Liam began, then stopped, realizing no explanation would suffice. I made the worst mistake of my life. That's not an answer, Elijah observed calmly. That's an evaluation. We're asking for factual information. Maya watched silently, allowing her children to navigate this moment on their terms. The years of building their confidence, their sense of self-worth, had prepared them for this confrontation. I was afraid, Liam admitted finally. I thought having a child would interfere with my plans, my family's expectations. I offered your mother money to go away. To abort us, Emma clarified clinically, making Liam flinch. Let's be precise with language. Yes. Liam couldn't meet their eyes. And when she refused, Elijah pressed. I had security escort her out. The words sounded monstrous in the open air. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the distant sounds of the gala inside and the ever-present New York traffic below. Did you ever think about us? Emma asked, her voice smaller now, the brilliant teenager momentarily revealing the child beneath. "Not for many years," Liam answered truthfully, "and that's my greatest shame. When did you find out about us?" Elijah's question came with the precision of a surgeon's knife. "Tonight, when I saw you on stage with your mother." Liam gestured helplessly. "I had no idea you existed. As twins, I mean. I thought, if there had been a child." "A single inconvenience instead of two," Emma concluded, her words cutting. Maya finally stepped forward. "That's enough for tonight. This is a lot to process. For everyone." The following morning brought chaos. Rain lashed against the hotel windows as Maya prepared for their return to San Francisco. In the lobby, Elijah was scrolling through his phone when he suddenly paled. "Mom," he called with a shaking voice, showing her the screen. "Why is Mr. Crawford trending with the hashtag number abandoning father ? Maya felt her stomach drop. On the screen, a viral video showed Liam at the hotel bar, clearly intoxicated, confessing to a stranger, "I have children. Twins. Never met them. Offered their mother money to disappear. Biggest mistake of my life." Some opportunist had recorded and shared it. Within hours, the story had connected the dots. The failing billionaire Liam Crawford was the absent father of Entrepreneur of the Year Maya Johnson's children. "We need to talk," Maya said to the twins, leading them to a private room the hotel had made available. For 2 hours, Maya recounted the entire story: the romance, the abandonment, the cruel words, the struggle. She answered every question with painful honesty. Emma cried silently. Elijah remained stoic, only his tense jaw revealing the inner storm. "Why didn't you ever tell us exactly who he was?" Emma finally asked. "Because I didn't want you growing up feeling you were insufficient," Maya answered, holding her children's hands. "I never wanted his judgment to define how you saw yourselves. So he really said that we were a mistake to be erased?" Elijah's voice broke, the first crack in his controlled facade. "Yes, and I spent 15 years proving how profoundly wrong he was." Maya smiled through her own tears. "You two are the best thing that ever happened, not just to me, but possibly to the world. Every patent we've developed, every community we've helped, it all began because you gave me the strength to attempt the impossible." As they talked, Maya's phone rang constantly. Her communications director reported that Johnson Innovation Tech shares had risen 3% with the story of overcoming, while Crawford Enterprises had plummeted 12%. Media requested exclusive interviews. Her team had already prepared an official statement, direct and dignified. Ms. Johnson confirms she raised her children alone after Mr. Crawford opted not to participate in their lives. She has no further comments on personal matters and remains focused on her mission of providing sustainable technologies globally. By mid-afternoon, as they prepared to leave for the airport, reception informed them that Liam Crawford insisted on seeing them. Against her security team's advice, Maya granted 15 minutes. The twins deserved closure. Liam entered the room looking as if he had aged 10 years in 24 hours. His bloodshot eyes and rumpled suit presented the image of a man utterly broken. "You've seen the video, I imagine," he began awkwardly. "We have," replied Maya, "and we've already talked about everything." While leaving New York that rainy afternoon, Maya didn't know that her decision about the future of Crawford Enterprises would not only close a painful circle, but open an entirely new chapter for all of them. 1 month after the confrontation in New York, Maya stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her San Francisco office, watching the fog roll across the bay. The Johnson Innovation Tech campus sprawled below her, 3 sleek buildings housing nearly 3,000 employees, each structure a physical manifestation of her journey from rejection to triumph. The morning sun broke through the mist, illuminating the solar arrays that Emma had insisted upon when they expanded 2 years ago. "Your 9 o'clock meeting is ready in the boardroom," her executive assistant announced softly, interrupting her thoughts. Maya nodded, gathering the portfolio containing the preliminary acquisition analysis. The Crawford Enterprises representatives? Yes. Their entire executive committee flew in from Chicago. They seem… The assistant paused, searching for the diplomatic word. Desperate. A thin smile crossed Maya's face as she straightened her tailored jacket. The exposure of Liam as the twins' absent father had generated precisely the kind of publicity most companies dread. Crawford Enterprises stock had plummeted an additional 18% in the weeks following the gala. Their credit rating had been downgraded twice. The Shanghai investors had publicly withdrawn from negotiations. The boardroom fell silent as Maya entered. 6 men in expensive but noticeably tired suits rose to their feet, the remnants of Crawford leadership. Liam was conspicuously absent. "Gentlemen," Maya greeted them with professional courtesy, "let's not waste time. You've requested this meeting to discuss potential acquisition opportunities." The CFO, a gray-haired man who had served under Liam's father, cleared his throat. "Ms. Johnson, we prefer to frame this as a strategic merger with synergistic… Crawford Enterprises is 3 months from bankruptcy," Maya interrupted, setting down her portfolio. "Your debt structure is unsustainable, your development pipeline has stalled, and your reputation is in freefall. This isn't a merger, it's a rescue operation." Stunned silence followed. These men had spent careers in wood-paneled rooms where such direct language was considered uncouth, especially from a woman. "We've prepared a fair valuation," Maya continued, sliding documents across the table. "Johnson Innovation Tech is prepared to acquire controlling interest in Crawford Enterprises, restructure the debt, and incorporate salvageable assets into our expanded Sustainable Development Division." As the meeting progressed, Maya found herself reflecting on the strange circularity of fate. 15 years ago, these men would have ignored her completely or, at best, asked her to bring coffee. Today, they clutched at her offer like drowning men reaching for a life raft. After the executives departed, Maya remained in the boardroom, contemplating the implications of acquiring the company that had once symbolized everything beyond her reach. Her decision wasn't driven by vengeance. That emotion had long since burned away, replaced by something more pragmatic. Crawford Enterprises, despite its flaws, represented a piece of her children's heritage. That evening, she initiated a private video call with Liam from her home office. He appeared instantly, the darkness under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept properly since New York. "Your executive team presented our offer today," Maya began without preamble. Liam nodded wearily. "I know. It's generous, considering." "This isn't about generosity or retribution, Liam. I'm not acquiring Crawford Enterprises because of our past. I'm doing it because, despite everything, it's part of Elijah and Emma's inheritance." Maya leaned forward slightly. "They deserve to know all aspects of their legacy, even the parts connected to you." Surprise flickered across Liam's face. "You're doing this for them?" "Everything I've ever done has been for them," Maya replied simply. "The question is what role, if any, you want in their future. Not as the CEO of a failing company I'm acquiring, but as the man who contributed to their existence." The conversation shifted to the twins who had returned to Westridge after processing the revelations of New York. They had expressed cautious interest in learning more about their paternal heritage, not for Liam's sake, but for their own sense of completeness. "They're extraordinary, Maya," Liam said softly. "Far better than I deserved." "That's accurate," Maya agreed without malice. "But they're curious about where they come from. Elijah particularly has questions about your father, your family history." "I'd like to answer those questions," Liam replied, "if they'll let me." 2 weeks later, Maya arranged a carefully controlled meeting at a neutral restaurant in Chicago. The twins had flown in from school, their demeanor composed but subtly anxious as they entered the private dining room where Liam waited. "Thank you for coming," he greeted them, his usual corporate confidence replaced by genuine humility. Emma studied him with analytical precision. "We have questions about our grandparents. Mom said your father passed away 5 years ago, but what about your mother? She lives in Connecticut now, Liam answered, grateful for the straightforward query. She was an architect before she married my father. She designed several notable buildings in Chicago in the 1970s. Is that where your interest in real estate began? Elijah asked, his first direct question. A conversation began to flow, tentative at first, then with increasing ease. Emma inquired about family medical history, practical as always. Elijah showed unexpected interest when Liam mentioned his own youthful passion for architectural design. I always assumed I got my mathematical abilities from Mom, Elijah admitted. She's brilliant with engineering calculations. Your grandmother would say spatial reasoning runs in the family, Liam replied. Though you've clearly surpassed any talent in our lineage, Maya observed from a discreet distance, recognizing the complexity of emotions crossing each face. When Emma laughed at something Liam said, a genuine unguarded sound, Maya felt an unexpected lightness. The children's ability to engage with their biological father without being damaged by his past rejection testified to the foundation of self-worth she had built within them. The following day, Maya stood before the abandoned Riverfront Cafe in downtown Chicago. The once trendy establishment had closed years ago, the building now vacant and somewhat derelict. 15 years earlier, she had pushed through those same doors in her waitress uniform, carrying orders for powerful men who never looked her in the eye. Now she stood there in Louboutin heels and a designer suit, accompanied by commercial real estate agents. The entire block is available for redevelopment, the agent explained, though most investors have bypassed this particular building due to structural issues. Maya walked through the empty space, memories surfacing with each step. The corner table where Liam had first started leaving extravagant tips, the break room where she'd taken pregnancy tests during her shift, the manager's office where she'd been dismissed for her condition. I'll take it, Maya decided. The entire building. 3 hours later, she sat in a sleek downtown law office, signing the purchase documents. The Johnson Community Center would rise from the bones of the cafe that had once fired her for being pregnant, offering scholarships, childcare, and support programs for single mothers pursuing education and entrepreneurship. As her pen moved across the final document, Maya felt a profound sense of completion. The circle that began with rejection had transformed into something powerful enough to change thousands of lives. The daughter of a single mother from Chicago's South Side, once deemed insufficient for the Crawford name, had built something so extraordinary that the Crawford legacy now existed only within its shadow. That evening, as her private jet prepared for departure back to San Francisco, Maya received a message from the twins. They had spent the afternoon with Liam at the Crawford family home, looking through old photographs and architectural plans. Attached was a picture of Elijah examining building blueprints alongside Liam, both heads bent at identical angles over the technical drawings. Maya studied the image, feeling neither resentment nor regret. The past could not be changed, but the future remained unwritten. Her children deserved to know all parts of their heritage, not just the struggle and triumph of their mother's journey, but also the flawed humanity of the father who had missed their childhood. As the plane ascended into the evening sky, Maya Johnson knew her story wasn't simply about success or revenge, but about transforming rejection into resilience and creating a legacy that would endure for generations. A legacy built precisely because a man once said she wasn't enough, only to discover she had always been extraordinary. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.